Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the FYE podcast. My name is Nicholas Balderas, and I'll be your host today. In this episode, we will be discussing the Campus Food Insecurity Initiative with Ms. Jayshree Bhat, along with Ms. Ana Davila and Oscar Zavala. And of course, we have our amazing student gurus, Gerson Salinas, Jerry Galindo, and Jasmine Campos, who will be joining us in the conversation. So I'm going to take a moment to let my guests introduce themselves. Ms. Bhat, let's go ahead and start with you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ms. Nicholas. So my name is Jayshree Bhat, and I am the Assistant Vice President for the Office of Professional Education Workforce Development. And my office actually oversees all of the non-credit education programs for the university. So that includes continuing education, executive education, and Language Institute. And in addition to that, we also get involved in workforce development type of activities to help our students develop professional skills while they're in college. So the reason I mentioned that is because the Campus Food Security Initiative falls under that part of my office, where we are we're addressing a need that exists on campus. Well, that need exists everywhere, food insecurity, right? But we have decided to address food insecurity through creating an opportunity for a lot of our students to get involved in this and be trained and do the work while they're developing professional soft skills, right? So there's one major need that we're trying to address, but then we are addressing it in a very unique and innovative way. So I'll get into more details about that a little later. But for now, I think I'll let Anna and Oscar introduce themselves as well, and then we can get to, you guys can introduce yourself and get to the questions.
Awesome. So my name is Ana Davila. I am a graduate assistant for the Campus Food Security Initiative under the Professional Workforce Development department. And I work under Ms. Bhat. I joined the team recently. I'm working on my master's in business analytics, and I'm excited to be in the podcast and to be working with this important initiative that impacts, not only our student body, but also our community at UTRGV, whether that's staff, faculty, any employees.
My name is Oscar Zavala. I'm also a graduate assistant. I work under the PEWD office. However, I'm concentrating on the Campus Food Security Initiative. I'm currently going for my MBA with the concentration in business analytics. I'm happy to be part of this initiative. I've never been part of anything like this, and it's great to see what we're doing and the impact that we're having.
That's great. And just to go ahead and get started, my name is Nicholas Balderas. I'm a graduate assistant with the Office of Student Success. Let's go ahead and take a moment and let our gurus introduce themselves.
I'll go ahead and start. My name is Jerry Galindo. I also work with the first year experience team, and I help here on the podcast and across our social medias and doing live events for our students. And it's great to be talking to everyone today.
My name is Gerson Salinas. I'm a work study as well. I'm a junior, and I'm part of the podcast team here in the first year experience.
My name is Jasmine. I am currently a senior also. I'm actually a part of the BSM, where you guys actually do all of the marketplace, and I believe you guys also partner with Global Blends sometimes.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to be talking to you guys.
Yes, the partnership is actually with the BSM Global Blends, because they do have this deli where they sell the sandwiches and smoothie, healthy versions of the sandwiches and smoothies. So that's, I'll get into more details about how we came to partner with them. But can I ask you guys something about the first year experience? Nicholas, can you share a little bit detail about what first year experience, tries to do, or what is it about?
So first year experience is an initiative to help first year students. We have various programs where we do outreach, and we try to outreach to students to help them transition from not only high school, but from second year institutions. And a lot of our programming is with the TSI. So there's certain TSI requirements for the university, and we help students kind of coordinate and I guess, direct them in the way to where they can, achieve success at the university. And at the same time, we have programming to have a certain, I guess, campus, what do they call it? I'm running a blank, like a campus community. So we kind of bring students together to just have certain resources. And point of this podcast is to go ahead and give the students an opportunity to listen to what kind of resources there are in the university, because I know there's a lot of different programming going on. So this particular episode is kind of reaching out to that students who are struggling with food insecurity. So really one of my first questions is, how do we identify food insecurity, and what are some of the effects that students are kind of struggling with?
All right, so how do we go about identifying food insecurity? That data is available nationwide. Especially college campuses are known to have higher level and higher rates of students that experience hunger. So on our campus, there was a group of students, graduate students, that are part of the Sustainability Fellowship Program that really started looking into this a little deeper last year in April 2019, where they started studying this, and they actually administered a survey to a sample size of the campus population. And surprisingly or not so surprisingly, the results, this was a self-reported response, by students themselves. And the results indicated that 44% of them indicated that they're experiencing hunger, right? So that is an alarming number, not so surprising though, because that seems to be the national, maybe it's a little higher than the national average, but then there are some socioeconomic conditions and other factors that influence hunger on campus here maybe more than other campuses that are considered a little more affluent, right? So that is how that identification happened on our campus back in, and then so another set of sustainability fellows kind of took it a little further in the fall when they studied, they started off with that data, and they started seeing what is causing that data, and what are some of the ways that can be addressed, right? So they took this study a little further in the fall, and they identified that although there are some resources that are available on campus, such as the food pantry, and there's community garden on campus as well, but they identified that even though there's some resources available, to 2 or 3 things were identified as the gap, that is causing this food insecurity to continue on campus. One of them is that, maybe the information is not readily available for a lot of students, right? And we're a commuter campus. A lot of information might be available at times, but there's no systematic way of reaching out to the students with that information directly. What you guys are doing is great in that sense. You know what I'm saying? You're connecting the first year students to the resources that are available on campus. And so going back to the reasons that they identified that was causing the gap to continue, was that one, the access to information, right? And access to the resource itself was a gap as well, because sometimes, the food pantry, for example, it is situated, it's run by student employees who have limited number of hours that they can contribute to this. So it may or may not be available 24/7, although to their credit, they've done a tremendous job of going online, setting up, online online purchasing. It's free to all students. I don't know if many students are available, but they can actually order them online free of cost and use them as well, because picking them up is probably an issue because it's not located next to a parking lot per se. There's some of these factors that might be influencing the utilization of the campus resources. That was the number 2 that they identified, right? And the third one was, when you're looking at addressing hunger, the first thing that comes up is economy, right? Cost of accessing the food. So yes, we might have non-perishable items available through the food pantry, and there's other resources as well. But really, when it comes down to accessing free resources, sometimes students are also deterred by the fact that there's labeling involved. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to be labeled as hungry or accessing free food and things like that. So we wanted to find a way to, now I'm getting into the next question. I don't know if you want to ask that question before I answer that, because I already answered how did we identify that, right? So I could move on to the next step of how we try to address it, or you can go ahead and ask me that question.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. And this can maybe go out to anybody who's probably on the ground working. I know you are more in the administrative role and you kind of coordinate with your team, and anyone can take this. But it's what are some of the programs you're featuring to help students? I know many students that are struggling. I have personally used these programs, when the pandemic happened. So I think it's really important for us to reach out to these particular population of students that maybe seem to be kind of insecure personally about reaching out, but I think it's really helpful to get involved. So what are some of these programs?
So before I answer that question about specific programs, let me get to the stage of actually letting you know or telling you guys how we actually came to the Campus Food Security Initiative, right? So because one of the identified factors were labeling, right? People don't want to be labeled as hungry or accessing free food. It was important for us to come up with a strategy that puts everyone in the same bracket. You know what I'm saying? So basically, we just wanted to create this, remove the labeling and create an environment where everyone can have access to healthy and nutritious food that doesn't have to cost a dime and a dime and a nickel for them. So what we did is we actually partnered with Baptist Student Ministries Global Blend. That's where our partnership comes in, right? So because I was privy to this information that there's hunger on campus that needs to be addressed, and workforce development and finding innovative ways to create opportunities for our students is part of my responsibility. And I was aware that BSM Global Blends had been running their pay what you feel type of deli and smoothies, healthy smoothies, pretty much across the street from the campus in Edinburgh. I went to their director and I said, you know what, we want to partner with you guys so that we can extend, not only extend what you offer, but we also want to bring in the Campus Food Security Initiative's mission, which is to address hunger on campus and also provide easy access to locally grown, locally sourced fresh produce, and make it easily available at this pay what you feel model so that anyone can go in there, they can pay 50 cents or they can pay $10 for the same amount of food and the same amount of produce without being labeled. So that is how this Campus Food Security Initiative kind of took shape. And so even though the idea was discussed about January of this year, we were actually all set to kind of launch this in February. And then COVID-19 hit us, right? So we had to take a back seat for about a month or two just to see how things would, evolve as COVID-19 evolved. And we came to realize by April that pandemic is now resulting in a lot more unemployment. A lot more of our students might be experiencing this hunger as a result of losing jobs and other factors than they did before. So it became even more important to launch this. But we had the constraints of the guidelines that we needed to follow, right? CDC had very strict guidelines about social distancing and a few other things had to be followed. But nevertheless, the need to address this, despite those constraints, became even more important and more paramount than ever before. So April is when we launched this program. To answer your question, specific questions about programs that are embedded within the Campus Food Security Initiative, because our goal is to address hunger, but not just address hunger, but we're trying to do this and also trying to address and issues that may lead to a positive behavior change in the students in their eating habits. Because you can address hunger by giving them food, but any type of food doesn't necessarily need to better productivity in the classroom, better overall health, lifestyle. So we're going after all of that in the background, but on the surface we're saying we're addressing hunger, right? But we can address hunger, but we want to do more of a transformational effect that will come out of this initiative. So that's why we are doing the weekly produce stand on Fridays, 10 to 12 on both campuses, on both major campuses. We have several campuses. So we actually make fresh produce available to the campus community. And because we have this partnership with BSM Global Blends, we have access to the kitchen. And so we have a food preparation team that works under the direction of an established chef who is really good at understanding nutrition, flavor, how to make healthy food, all of that. So they are learning under the direction of this professional chef and producing these wonderful plant-based meals that are made available on every Friday. So that is one way, right? But what we're going after is engaging and educating and empowering the students, and generally students, because it is a student, it's a student facing and student, I guess student facing initiative. So we really want to go about it that way. So those are some of the main things that we're doing, but underlying goal is to kind of go after the behavior change. So we're, really active on social media. We're trying to engage the student organizations as well. So there are several programs that are kind of evolving as we get into the 8th or 9th month of this initiative. One of them includes the webinars where students will be connected to the local experts that understand, food, sustainability, nutrition, healthy lifestyles, and all of those things. So those are all some of the programs that are currently being offered through this initiative. And Anna and Oscar will be answering some of your questions as we move into this. So yeah, thank you.
Just wanted to ask, where can we find you on social media?
Anna or Oscar, one of you guys can take that.
Sure. So we are on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We also have a YouTube channel. You can find all information there, but our handle is utrgv.cfsi, which obviously stands for Campus Food Security Initiative. And like I said, on Instagram, we post our content and what meals you can do that. It might not be related to what we're offering on Fridays, but throughout the week, you can make avocado toast or just easy recipes that students that are living on campus and don't have maybe an entire kitchen at their disposal can still prepare healthy meals with simple items that they might already have.
That's correct.
So you mentioned the pandemic, and you mentioned that at the launch of the program, it was like the start of the pandemic. And I guess during that time, a lot of students probably were not only struggling with food, but were probably struggling with money and other problems. So how has the department kind of, worked with the pandemic? And I know you mentioned a couple of things, but, what was that effect? Did you happen to see more students being coming to get help, or was there maybe like a decrease in students? How was that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do measure the data on a weekly basis. So we scan, because this is primarily for the campus community. So we encourage faculty, staff, and students to attend our weekly events. And we scan their IDs to see who they are, who are coming in, and whether they're students, faculty, or staff. But by saying that, I'm not saying that we actually say it's close to the non-campus community, because we take the stance that any community member that comes to these events happens to be an affiliate of one of our students or faculty or staff. So we take that stance, so we keep it open. So we get a good number of what we would call community members, but having said that, they could be family members of our campus community, but a good number of students. So initially, just to give you an idea of the number of people that we served in the initial stages of this initiative, on an average, we served about 150 people between the two campuses, a lot more on Edinburgh campus than Brownsville campus, primarily because in the Edinburgh campus initially, we also had prepared fresh plant-based meals available. So that kind of added to the number of people that accessed our Fridays events. So we offer that. And then as far as what the effect of the pandemic itself, so obviously in the beginning months, there were a lot of constraints that we experienced, not just about following CDC guidelines, but also we had a team of 10 undergraduate students that we had hired to perform different aspects of this initiative. 2 of them were helping with the university's farm called the Hub of Prosperity, in terms of increase in the output there. 2 students were hired to source the food every week, because sourcing the produce itself is a lot of work. People don't realize it. We have to figure out whether we can get it directly from the farms, especially when the produce, the growing season comes to an end in late spring, early summer. We go through a dry patch in the local area where there's fresh produce not available directly through the farmer. So we had to switch over to fresh produce distributors that we could purchase it from. And then we also experienced our team itself, student teams getting sick or getting exposed to the COVID. There were so many challenges that came up along the way. But one thing that was really, really strong is that there was a very strong team of students guided by me and other advisors that were in place. But also they were learning how to problem solve, how to learn from the challenges and not be deterred by the challenges, because challenges create opportunities, right? So, and teamwork, time management, communication skills, all of those were embedded within this initiative. So I would like to proudly say that the team has not only survived through the pandemic, but also thrived, because from one week to the other, I've had to make so many changes in the way we did it, right? So the team had to adapt to that very quickly and deliver on a weekly basis. But going back to the end user population, how the pandemic has affected the end user population, right? So the number of students that we serve over the period of the 7 to 8 months that we've been doing this, has remained steady, but maybe we've seen a decline in the overall population that is accessing our Fridays events. A lot of factors have contributed to that. People are no longer as afraid as they used to be to go to the grocery store. You know what I'm saying? So they might be going to the grocery stores more often to get the produce and other things. But from an end user perspective, I was just doing some research in preparation for this, and I saw that the Feeding America, which is a nonprofit, national nonprofit that really studies the effect of pandemic, that had put out a report recently about the effect of pandemic itself on food insecurity, right? You'll be so surprised that it actually shows from 2018 to 2020, projected annual food insecurity rate is expected to go up by 4.1%, okay? So in the overall population, it will be about 15% of the population experiencing really dire food insecurity. And then it also looks at the projected number of food insecure people. And there, in the number of people, the expectation is that it'll go up by 13%. So that to me is an indication that, campuses are kind of a stratum of the society, right? So we will see that happening on campuses itself and campuses as well, but maybe on campuses like ourselves, which is kind of situated in a region that is considered, more socioeconomically lower, then we might see that even more. You know what I'm saying? So that is where the importance of this initiative comes into the picture.
So as a student, I actually live really close near campus. So as the pandemic started, like you mentioned, some people were let go of jobs, and it was harder to, just maintain food. Obviously, we have fast food restaurants and a lot of third-party delivery options that can deliver fast food to your door. But I thought it was really, it was great to have the option of a pay what you feel program with so many fresh veggies that I can just weekly like stock up so that I can not only be fed but also be healthy. I know another thing you guys do is also, I think every week you guys have like a small little meal. I know sometimes you guys have lentil soup there and
they're single serving meals. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, those have been so good. And I know you guys also have, like you mentioned, a lot of students who are working with you guys as well. I know a few of them who've worked with you in the past and some of them who are working with you now. As I guess this one's more for the GAs, how have you guys been impacted through working with the food security initiative, sorry?
I think for me personally, so I joined in October, and at the time I was living in California. I was making my move back to Texas, partially because of the pandemic. There's a big part in taking advantage of this time and being with family because you don't know what's going to happen. And luckily this position was available and I had just started my master's. And so everything kind of fit into place. But how it's impacted me directly, there's in the weeks that I've been part of the initiative, I've already learned so many different types of recipes that I had no idea that you could do. Like the other day we did spinach muffins, and that would have, I mean, I've heard of zucchini bread, right? And at the time I was like, zucchini, why would you put that with bread? That just doesn't go. But then you think about spinach muffins, and they were really, really good. You add a little bit of ginger to it and the flavor has, exploded. So I think I've tried to implement, and my the students that we work with as well have implemented drinking smoothies in the morning, making sure that you do have your veggie servings throughout the day, because you can go, especially with specifically to me, my Hispanic culture, veggies aren't a big part of our plate. It's normally the meat and potatoes, that's what your meal is. And of course that stems from the culture, but also part of that is there's a lot of food insecurity. And so whatever you can get, whether that's rice and beans, those are the two options that you have. And a lot of people, that's what they're used to, right? So vegetables are very expensive. Organic vegetables are very expensive. So it makes it way more difficult. And the students that work with us as well, if there's produce left over, we're able to take some of that as well, and we're able to donate as we feel as well, because we're also students. So it slowly creeps into your life in a very positive way, which I didn't completely expect that to happen. And I had already started implementing some smoothings in the mornings and that, but you start to become more conscious about what you're putting into your body. And how it really does impact everything around you. You feel better, and that makes you more productive, and that makes you more energetic, and so on and so forth. And then at the same time, it makes you realize that you're not the only one that is struggling, that other people are struggling more than you are or less than you are, that it's not just students, that it can also be staff, it can also be faculty. That could happen to any of us. We're not going to always be at a winning position. And yeah, it's eye-opening to see that.
Oscar?
So it's been really cool to work for this initiative. I've never ever worked for anything like this. I'm coming off of the private sector, and so like over there, all they really care about is how much money they can get, and all that. And here, they really care about the students and the campus community, and it's very motivating, and it's I guess enlightening in a way of what we're doing. And I've worked, giving out the food and interacting with individuals who come, and it's very inspiring to see the impact that we're having on the community. So I'm very happy to work for this initiative. And also, ever so slightly, day by day, it's been impacting me in the way of like, just like Anna said, and like, oh, maybe I should eat this instead of this, or eat more vegetables and fruits. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that's all I eat, but ever so slightly it's creeping in. I instead of a bag of chips, I'll go for a sticky cucumber or something like that. So it's
and to add to what you said, Oscar, the intent of this initiative is not to say you completely change your lifestyle or you completely replace the food on your plate. It's just to give them enough like Anna said, enough motivation to change certain things in their eating habits, to incorporate more fruit and vegetables. And because we constantly hear about how good they are to your body, but a lot of times when you have limited resources, the first thing people think about is, I can go through the drive-through for $3. I can get a lot of food. Why don't I just eat that today and worry about tomorrow? But instead, we're telling them, if you have limited resources, that's fine. You can still eat healthy. That's the underlying goal of this initiative, to kind of go after that behavior change slowly but surely.
Yeah, and I get it's also a great option for students to have, so it's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's definitely made it more accessible. And I know last week you guys were giving cucumbers. So a lot of times this week I'll like find myself, I should just walk to Stripes and get hot Cheetos or something. But like you were mentioning, like money can be tight as a college student sometimes. Exactly. So I think back to the cucumbers and I'm like, I should just eat that with some derechas or chamoy or something. Like it just makes it easier, and not like guilt tripping yourself, but it's kind of like cucumbers is going to be a better option in the long run than hot Cheetos from the corner store.
I'll also add on that lemons were part of the produce last week. And so cucumber and lemon, I mean, that is a very, very good snack that I absolutely love. Sometimes you add a little bit of derechas or you add a little bit of salt and it changes the flavor dramatically. So I think overall we try to also provide produce that is going to mesh well and potentially tie into the meals that we're also giving on the side, right? So maybe you're like, I don't know, I'm allergic to avocados. There was avocados that were left this week, but there's meals that have something else that you can purchase for that Friday or that weekend, or donate.
Yeah, I think that's
so really... other than Jasmine, have the rest of you accessed our weekly fresh produce and prepared meals? Have you come to those events?
Yeah.
Do you all live in Edinburgh or Brownsville?
Yeah, I actually live really close to the campus as well. I mean, my experiences with the produce, the last time I went, they actually gave me an entire bag of veggies, and it was quite a bit. I mean, I made a donation, and the veggies itself, they were actually really, really good, and it was enough to make a whole pot of soup because they gave me like 2 potatoes, some carrots, they gave me an onion, they gave me some cilantro, I think, and I just threw all that in a pot and made some soup. And I think this particular initiative is like a really great way for students just to get some of that extra healthy food. I wanted to go into another question. It was kind of about the role of farmers. You mentioned agriculture and I guess like local farmers being involved in the program. How is the agricultural industry helping with those food insecurities, and what is their involvement with the program?
So I won't be able to, I'll take this question initially and then Anna and Oscar can chime in. But, I won't be able to speak on behalf of the farmers, but I can tell you why farmers are such an integral part of this initiative, right? Valley economy has primarily been an agroeconomy. It has depended so much on the agriculture, right? So, it is also the largest, it is also an area where produce can be grown, vegetables can be grown at least 8 to 9 months out of the year, right? Because of the beautiful weather that we have down here. So farmers become extremely important because they are producing. But what I've noticed though is that there's also a gap in the farm to market type of the system, in the sense that a lot of farmers are involved in growing, but small farmers don't have access to distributors or large, companies like HEB or others who may not buy, produce directly from them, because it takes a lot of planning and training and everything that the farmers need as well to produce at that level. So our goal is to connect the farmers directly to the consumers through this initiative. And initially we were purchasing organic, fresh produce from the farmers because we started this initiative back in April when the produce season was at its peak, right? But so that in itself makes it easy for us to say, you know what, if you need fresh produce, whether organic, which is relatively expensive, or just grown locally, right? we can create that access for students to purchase it directly from the farmers themselves. In a way that creates this network of people that access the farm products, whether it's, for some people, it could be the meat as well. It doesn't have to be something that's just vegetables that are grown in, poultry, chicken, everything is grown in farm as well, right? So they're all, as long as they're coming directly from nature to the consumer, that is our goal, to connect, the consumers to the farmers that are producing them naturally. And so that in itself will create another network that will be much beyond what the scope of what we're trying to accomplish on campus. Anna, Oscar, do you guys have anything to share, add?
Yeah, I think, like you mentioned, vegetables and fruits and all of that is seasonal. So we have to work with farmers and what is available throughout the seasons to see what we can provide. So that can kind of changes over the months and over the weeks. We try to source it the most we can locally and from specific small farmers and whatnot. And we have students that actually reach out and make connections with those farmers, which I think is a very important part for student experience, right? That's firsthand, hands-on experience of communicating and working with local farmers and seeing what the possibility is of participating in one of our webinars or participating in a making of a video or what their process looks like, not just in providing produce, right? Because they contribute more than just produce. They're literally a part of our community. And so connecting our students to those farmers is also a big part of the initiative that I think it should not go unmentioned.
Expanding on what Anna said, like our weekly webinars that we're working on, we host these lives that we show, recipes and stuff like that, but we're working on, getting to contact with more farmers and, showing the experience of, the production of these vegetables, these produce. So, just like Anna said, to make that connection of students, and community to the farmers. So if you guys want to check that out.
Your volume was just a tad bit low, Oscar. You may want to adjust that. I couldn't hear you really that clearly. I don't know what happened. Anyway, yeah.
Well, it's all right. We'll go ahead and move on.
Yes.
Do any of the other gurus want to ask a question?
I was going to ask a question. Any guest that wants to answer it can answer it. But is there a need right now for the initiative to have like more volunteers? And if so, if a student finds themselves, say, they've been really liking what y'all been providing and they feel like they can help either in like volunteer opportunities, where could they possibly contact you all?
Volunteers are always needed. Anytime that you're looking at running weekly events like this, it takes a lot of preparation. But the beauty of volunteering at this initiative is that volunteers can actually walk away with something tangible. You know what I'm saying? It's not just coming up and giving up 3 hours of your time. They could walk away with a bag full of produce, freshly prepared, a tasty meal. So that is the added incentive. So if they want to volunteer, they could email PEWD office at utrgv.edu, and our staff will take it from there and connect you to the student team that that works on this initiative. That's the best way for, or they can call 665-6513. That's our office, the Office of PEWD number, to indicate that they're interested in volunteering, and we'll take them in. And there are a lot of, like Jasmine said, BSM has a lot of student volunteers that help out as well. Yes.
The other way, if emailing seems like too big of a role, you can always slide into our DMs and we'll connect you and make sure that you're ready to go to volunteer. And you don't have to do it every Friday, or you don't have to do it every day or anything like that. We'll take what we can get when it comes to volunteers. There's a lot of really cool benefits.
So
Can you repeat the social media accounts again, please?
Yeah, of course. Instagram, utrgv.cfsi, and Instagram, you can look up the same, Facebook, you can look up the same, or just type in Campus Food Security Initiative.
So we're rounding up to the end of our podcast episode, but I want to give the students one more time to maybe ask one more question. Does anyone else have an additional question they'd like to ask our guests?
Well, I just wanted to, I know that the fresh produce one is on Fridays. So what about the other programs? When could we find them at school?
So our weekly markets are on Fridays from 10 to 12. That's every Friday. Tentative is Thanksgiving week and Christmas week. Likely not going to happen, but we're sending out emails every week as well with what's going on throughout the week. Our weekly webinars don't have an established date just yet because we are working with students, obviously, that have different student schedules, and depending on who our guest is that week, that time can change, right? So that you can look out for that information on our Instagram. You can look for that on the email that we send. If you are not part of our listserv, reach out to us and we'll make sure to add you on that as well. Am I missing any other events? So, and then through our Instagram and Facebook, sometimes we also go live on Fridays to just so you can see like, hey, I don't know what produce is available. What's the vibe looking like? Check out our Instagram. We're going live on there as well. And then of course, like I said, keep a lookout for that email to see if anything new is added. We're constantly trying to innovate different ways to reach our student population. We know emotions are high, not just because of the pandemic, election week, and all kinds of things are happening this year, 2020. And so sometimes things can get overwhelming.
Projects, exams, let's add that to the list as well. That causes stress. All of you on this, except for me, understand that right now. But to add to what Anna was saying, as far as the programs, was something new that we started doing this week is that there's an online presence for the Friday's prepped meal as well. So people can actually place the order for these prepped meals in advance on a donation basis. Of course, it's not, there's no specific price attached to it. But the beauty of that is that the team will the group will save their meals for them to pick up on Fridays. So Jerry and how do you say your first name? Is it Jerson?
Gerson. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jerry and Jerson, I would highly recommend that you guys try it out this Friday or another Friday that you can make it to either Edinburgh or Brownsville campus, depending on where you're at, because it's important for you all to experience what it is, because we're going after the experience, like Anna said, emotions are high. People are kind of finding themselves lonely as well because everyone's cooped up inside remote doing, so this Friday's event gives people an opportunity to be outdoors, especially when the weather is really getting nicer, to be outdoors, to have those interactions. And on Edinburgh campus, BSM also makes smoothies, fresh coffee, and other things that are available during the market as well. So that's why we're calling it the market, because it's not just the fresh produce and the prepped meal. They also have coffee, like gourmet coffee, available at Pay What You Feel model. It doesn't get any better than that, guys. So I would highly recommend that you test it out. Yeah, Oscar, anything you want to add?
Yeah, and we're trying to work with other student orgs for them to get involved, but unfortunately, not until November 20th because of COVID. We can't work. They can't attend any events, on-campus events yet. But you can look out for that. They'll come to the market and add value to it.
And of course, we'll go ahead and add your links to our description. And we'll go ahead and put that so we can go ahead and get students connected with you all. And of course, I'll go ahead and follow up with you so maybe we can just share our first year experience podcast with your social media sites. Are there any other questions? No? Okay, so this is going to be the conclusion of the FYE podcast. I want to go ahead and thank Ms. Jayshree Bhat, Mr. Oscar Zavala, and Ms. Ana Davila. Thank you for joining us in the FYE podcast. I would like to say thank you, and you have a wonderful day.